US crowdfunding platform GoFundMe has transformed the face of charitable giving. Since 2010, over $5 billion have been raised via the site, donated to over 2 million individual campaigns. Users can raise money for everything from sponsored runs to chemotherapy bills, with a number of campaigns going viral, meaning that a specific cause catches the public imagination to such an extent that complete strangers are willing to dig deep to help out. Well, my guest today is Rob Solomon, CEO of GoFundMe. Thank you very much indeed for coming on to France 24 to speak to us today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start by telling me just how the idea for GoFundMe first came about? What was the need you were responding to?
So there's a big need out there. Many people fall through the cracks. They think that the government is there to help them, that NGOs are there to help them, and that should be the way, but oftentimes people have nowhere else to turn, and we find that communities of people come together to help people out. So that was the genesis of GoFundMe, and 10 years later almost, it's become a global phenomenon.
And have you seen a change in what your site is used for? A shift possibly from people trying to raise money for individual causes to people trying to raise money for political causes?
Absolutely. So we see the whole gamut of everything from people raising money for medical related expenses, emergencies, natural disasters, and we're starting to see the platform being used for movements, everything from climate change to political action and everything in between. So a big shift over time towards moments becoming movements.
And how do you feel about that change? Is that something that you envisaged at the start of GoFundMe?
There's not much that we envisaged, but what has happened is it's become the reality. We've become the take action button on the internet. So with every single news cycle, with everything that happens in the world, GoFundMe campaigns are started to help support people in need and to support causes that people care really deep about. So we feel really great about it because it has become an antidote to all the negativity that everyone sees on the internet, on news, and that's a really positive sign, we think.
Now, you do sometimes actively support certain campaigns that are political in nature. I saw during the peak of family separations at the US-Mexico border that your site was actively encouraging people towards certain GoFundMe sites. Do you see yourself, your company, as a political entity in any way?
Not really. We view ourselves as an open platform where anyone can raise money for any cause. We have a certain set of terms, and if you violate the terms, you can't raise money on the cause. As a company, we like to support certain campaigns, but we don't see ourselves as a conservative or liberal or progressive company or platform. We're an open platform, but we do support certain causes depending on what they are.
Now, these campaigns do often carry some real clout. Some people saying that they've kind of taken the place of petitions in a way. People using their money to stake their claim rather than simply a name on a piece of paper.
Yeah, so petitions are great. They bring awareness to things, but to really solve problems, to make change, you oftentimes have to have money to see that through. So money is a very important component of change making. You need it to pay bills, you need it to rally others around, you need it to survive sometimes. So there is a big difference between just signing something and collecting money to make change in the world.
And would you say that it carries possibly a bit more clout because people are actually having to dig deep to put their money where their mouth is?
I think that's right. I think it's very easy to sign a petition. It's very easy to like a post on social media, but actually opening up your wallet and entering your credit card information and making a donation is a much bigger action. So it does carry much more clout.
Now, there have been a number of cases recently, as I suppose is inevitable with a site of your size, of some bogus campaigns, elaborate money-making scams where people claim, for example, to be raising money for a homeless person. The money doesn't necessarily go to that person. How does your site try to prevent those sorts of scams? Yeah,
so a very important part of what we do is building trust in making donations on the platform. So we have a group called Trust and Safety. 1/3 of all the employees at our company are dedicated to keeping the platform safe. So we use a mix of technology, process people. We have a community of 75 million people who have donated on the platform, and they'll tell us if something doesn't look right. And we also have something called the GoFundMe guarantee. So any donation made on the platform is backed by this guarantee. And if the money doesn't go where you think it's supposed to go, we'll make a refund. So we use a mix of people, technology, and the guarantee to keep it as safe as possible.
Now, inevitably, with a site like yours, people's most shocking stories, young children in need of urgent medical care, for example, do trigger a more visceral response in donors than some other campaigns. That does mean that some campaigns are going to be significantly more successful than others, especially if they go viral. How does that sit with you, ethically speaking, when two cases, two ill children, for example, might both be facing a very difficult situation? One of them gets the cash, the other one doesn't. How do you feel about that?
Well, what we want to do is make sure everyone who has a need can raise money on the platform. Some are much more successful than others. And what we do is we try and amplify every single campaign, and sometimes they're more successful than others. And we're constantly working on ways to improve that. So ultimately, our goal is to allow anyone who needs to raise money on the platform to be successful at doing so. And we're getting better and better at that as time goes by.
Now, in the US, as we've mentioned already, a lot of people do use your platform to try to raise cash for things like routine operations, dentistry even. By putting the focus on individual donations rather than, say, state contributions, do you feel that you're letting the state or various states off the hook to a certain extent?
We don't want to let them off the hook. We think the job of the state, the job of government, is to provide the services that they promise to. What we find on a global basis is oftentimes they don't deliver on that promise. So somebody has to step in. And a platform like ours is incredible from the perspective of it gives the power to the people to come together and solve problems when nobody else will. And until we live in a perfect society, something like this has to exist, and it's solving many problems that the state or NGOs can't.
Rob Solomon, CEO of GoFundMe, thank you very much indeed for coming on to speak to us here on France 24.
Of course.